Tesla to 350 this week. High likelihood is the name of our show today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We wanted to note that, wow, we have a little bit of a reflection here. We want to thank first our Patreon supporters as well as our subscribers. If you enjoy the show, please take time to like and subscribe. We also wanted to note to you that we do have trade blasts daily for our top tier folks that are Patreon supporters. And in some cases, a dollar saved is a dollar earned. So, we'll try to address all of that in this show. Please, if you do choose to make comments, to try to stay on topic. This is a pretty serious show today. We want to make sure everyone gets the best information possible to manage their finances accordingly. So as you know, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Title of our show today is Tesla likely 350 this week. And we kind of run through the logic of getting there. So as you've noted over time, we've had issues where we've shared when we thought it was going to be a huge up or a huge down. I agree with you, for those of you who don't like the show, because I don't either, when the company's not going to do well. I find that it's a lot more difficult to do shows because I want the company to do well. I want you to do well. And when that does not occur, I'd have to say it's not fun. So the first part of this discussion, actually, that I wanted to mention to you is that I wanted to hold this up. It's actually a vitamin C packet, 1,000 milligrams that you put in water. I actually have a friend who has the virus, and one of the doctor suggested that there's an interesting problem, which is there are many ways to address the virus if you have it, and one of them is to boost your vitamin C levels as a way to combat illness related. And so if you guys have any other questions at the end, I will field those. So let's start with the first part of the 5 reasons why I think Tesla stock price gets smashed this week. The first of them is that I went and visited the production facility in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. Right now, they have a number of Model 3s there. And the thing that we ran into is something that I learned in dating about 5 years ago. So there's a very attractive lady that I was talking to. We met online. And she made a comment to me that had been made to her. And that comment was, she said, "Everybody wants you, but nobody can afford you." So what I mean by that in this case is just the fact that we have an interesting challenge. The 2 vehicles that are currently available in the Model Y versions are the $60,000 dual motor version, as well as the $67,000 performance edition. And when we're looking at those numbers, I don't know what the package includes, but it would be very easy with a $5,000 upgrade of the autopilot and 1 or 2 upgrades for like the $67,000 vehicle. If you had taxes and insurance and licensing, that's an $80,000 car. And on the lesser price car, that's a $70-ish thousand car with only 1 or 2 options added. So what this brings up is that you have this issue where the higher the price of the vehicle, the lower the number of people that can afford it. So the first contention I have is just the fact that we're in the mode right now where the $50,000 vehicle gets huge numbers, but the $80,000 vehicle, there are fewer people who can afford it. So in the case of the Model Y, what we noticed was that there's an interesting problem, which is, there are a lot of people who've put down their deposits who have not picked up their vehicle. And so we end up with a tough situation where they're not picking up their vehicle for a number of reasons. And the biggest one is what they could afford a month and a half ago has actually changed. So the challenge presented by one of our show advisors is the fact that there are a lot of people who are looking at a 401k that had them almost retiring 4 or 5 weeks ago. And now they realize that they're going to have to keep working beyond the number of years planned based on how badly the market has gotten smashed. So those folks are basically saying, I could go for wants, and instead of wants, I'm now in a needs-only purchase situation. So yes, I want to help out the planet. I'm definitely down for the electric future, but I'd rather spend $30,000 less with very low cost of fuel, and we can sort of roll from there. So that's number one. Number two, one of our friends of the show, Joey, just mentioned that he ordered his Model Y in November and he's still waiting on it. Interestingly, Joey, we've got like 20, not 20 of them, more like 15 or 18 of them here in the Tyson's Corner facility. They're unsold. So if you want to pop down, I'm sure they would let you swap sheets and pick up your car tomorrow, because that would help them make their numbers. So you might want to, we still have time to call the office and see if they'll make the swap. And I live near it. So if they approve it, I'll drive it up there, man. It would be a fun trip. And I would definitely blog it on behalf of everybody on this show so you could see it happen. The next issue that comes up in line with the dialogue that we're having is no Fremont production. So the idea behind no Fremont is just the fact that the challenge that's going on is that for Joey and others in Canada or in other places, even if you want the Model Y, they're not producing anything right now. So that's the second issue that that kind of works in this process. The third issue is what I call China volume too low to fill the gap. So China isn't producing Ys yet. They're only producing 3s, and the Ys aren't expected to start production there until the latter part of this year. So without those Ys available and it being one of the longest waiting lists, that affects things as well. So a subset of what's going on in this not available yet department is yesterday, you saw the video that we did where we visited the service facility in Tyson's. We actually ran into a couple where the husband actually has 2 Model 3s. His daughter that he bought one from didn't want it, so he has one car he drives during the week and the other on the weekends. His wife has an X5, a BMW, and doesn't like the lack of elevation for the Model Y, so therefore she's reticent on that. So I was intrigued because what's actually happening here is that once China goes full production across a number of vehicles, you now have the opportunity to switch out production into that space that you currently don't. So there is demand for Model 3s, but that demand is really either waiting for the Cybertruck, A, or B, waiting for the Model Y, neither of which can you get delivered currently, sort of, unless you're in certain places. The next issue that I put out there is number 5, being the lack of effort relative to the semi being delivered. Now, there's a large numbers of very big companies that are waiting on the semi, and it has not arrived yet. And so this creates a problem because you have heavy demand for a vehicle whose factory is not done yet, and it would have been nice to be able to maybe have production in Nevada near Giga, or maybe in another part of the country that's not as dense, possibly Texas, so that you could bang out trucks in those environments right now and have revenue flowing and sales flowing from that happening. And it ain't happening right now. So that's another issue. Number 6 is the virus shutdown. Clearly, having Giga as well as the Buffalo plant as well as the Fremont factory all shut down during the virus period, and then suppliers in a similar position, that affects things as well. So what I wanted to cover in this show was kind of concentrate on there are these different elements of, how are Tesla's numbers going to come together in this environment? There's there's a very good possibility that China might be producing and selling more than expected. So one way out of this is that we actually see China deliver ahead of expectation numbers. And now we have those numbers enabling Tesla to meet or exceed its revenue and profit goal for the quarter, in which case the stock would be pushed up nicely. What we're seeing based on what's called our channel checks is in Norway, they're laying people off at Tesla. In England, we've had several people articulate that what they're seeing there is truckloads of vehicles that are unsold. We obviously have the shutdown in the US, but even when vehicles have been produced and are sitting at the facility, we're seeing a lot of people that take delivery on those vehicles. But, they're in a tough position right now, given that they may not have a job anymore. And even if they do have a job, their 401ks have just been decimated. So this is why we sort of put it out there as 5 reasons. We're going for more like 10 of them, why I think that the stock just absolutely gets mashed this week. So the one good thing is that when it does get mashed, I think it doesn't happen until the end of the week because they'll report the quarter numbers either on Thursday or Friday. But either day that they decide, even after hours, I think the stock will get smashed because they haven't made their numbers. Another reason why this week is so critical is if Tesla had made the profit and revenue numbers targeted, they would actually have been in a great position because this would set them up for entry into the S&P, which would also bolster the lowest potential for the stock because it's being bought by the S&P based on numbers presenting in the following quarter. So as you can see, the pile of reasons why it is that Tesla ends up in kind of a tough position for the quarter is rather large. The opposing side of that argument, so we have done in the past something we call way and no way. So the way in which the stock price is smashed is, the list is rather long and 5 didn't even cover it. Let's go for the no, for the that's the way. The no way in terms of it's being smashed has sort of fewer participants. So one example would be if China is both building and selling at or above its numbers, it may be able to fill in for lack of sales in US and Europe. That's a possibility. The second way that things could work out is those that are compelled to have to buy in this marketplace may choose to try to reach out for companies who are just doing well, not hugely bad in this situation. So Tesla has sold a decent number of cars. They've got a decent backlog. There's a number of things that they have going. And so as a result, you may have a situation where there's something called relaxing on the PE. So what people tend to do is figure out what the market PE ratio is and figure out what ratio they're willing to pay up for companies growing faster than the market. So this is one way in which Tesla could kind of escape this, which is their stock price is already down. So in theory, the real PE that's expected in the stock price that we're seeing currently could be much lower than it previously was. So as a result, a lower number would not necessarily be a killer for that reason. So in theory, you could see them get smashed. For this logic stream, you could see them get smashed by the hedge funds immediately after a lower price. But then the large institutions would come back in and say, look, everybody's doing bad during this. Tesla looks like the least bad of the options we have, and we still need to buy, so let's dive in. Another thing that would follow this theme would be 0% bond yields that the Fed has moved to try to help the economy could also affect things because now people are saying, well, it's better to have some growth potential with Tesla than go to 0% on my bonds sitting over. That's one of the reasons why the Fed lowered that price, was to try to compel retirees and others to dump their cash back into the stock market because they get better returns, et cetera. So, I'd have to say that we're going to find out what that answer is by Friday, and we'll know the answer. The answer could be, guess what? I'm totally wrong on everything that I just described. That's a possibility. Um, the answer is it's a possibility, but I don't see any gaps in the logic that I just shared with you that would generate the opposite possibilities that we've talked about. So if you guys can see any, I'm happy to embrace and respond, because when it comes to our show, the better Tesla does, the more viewers we have, the more subs we get, et cetera. The worse the company does, I really feel like we can see it in our numbers. So, that's the thought process that I have. Um, you know, I have a trading group I'm with, and maybe the last thing I wanted to cover today, it's an interesting situation. This is going to be part of our trade blast tomorrow morning, but might be later tonight. And that is that we have an interesting battle or discussion going on right now in our group, and it focuses on Boeing. So basically what happened is the two largest traders in our group have this, let's buy Boeing. And the logic is that Boeing is potentially going to receive part of the stimulus package, and therefore they'd be doing, much better. And so, there's an interesting sort of process happening. And what that process is, in theory, Boeing's stock price should go up because they get the stimulus money, and now the company's doing better. They do have $15 billion in cash, so theoretically they could have negotiating time before they sort of did their thing. So there are a couple of arguments against this whole thing. The first is Boeing has announced that they don't want to give up any equity, much like GM did to the government. So therefore, if it involves equity, they're not going to do it because they can go to the capital markets or they can use the cash that they have. That's one of their arguments. The argument against that one is that the bond market's kind of frozen right now, so for corporate debt, it's hard to find that. The second issue that pops up is, and what I think about this is that Boeing's looking for negotiating leverage, or they think they have it based on the cash on hand, and they have a decent sized stock price to work off of. And part of that is the yield they're offering at 6%. So I would say that it kind of seems like a valid idea to look at Boeing and them taking stimulus money and the stock popping up afterwards. But I don't, I have to say, I don't see it, because it looks like there's a battle between the government and Boeing that makes this whole thing not really work. And so therefore, I think that the calls might be a good idea, but I kind of don't see it. And the fact that the stock was down in aftermarket, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. We'll see how this trade goes out. But I would say that I'm not seeing that one work at all, because the management attitude at Boeing, I don't think, lends itself for that whole thing to work. I saw a comment go by, and we are at about the 20-minute point in the show, referencing the pinning action on Friday. I wanted to thank you, because I always get people bugging me about stuff that doesn't work that I present. And in this case, the pinning action on Friday, we predicted that they would pin it above 500. And even though it got to 495, it pulled all the way to 525. So there are a large number of people who got blown out on their puts because they were on the wrong side of the ratio that allowed the market makers to basically kill them off. So, that's sort of the view I'm having. So in general, what this show is about, the fact that, if you're more in the zone of just investing, not using puts as a way to hedge your portfolio or insure it, I just wanted to encourage you to think about, maybe you want to lighten up a little bit on what you own, because the forces of destruction are huge, but the forces on the other side are thin. And I even forgot about item number 10 in the destruction list, Tesla right now, is that one of our heavy traders was really stoked or excited about the fact that these Elon was building these ventilators and plans to build them, so, buying and giving them away, and now planning to build them. What he also shared as a quote was that both the ones we build and the ones I buy will be free. So the potential revenue hit that comes from this that might have boosted the stock, gone. So I'm therefore confused. You're going to have Tesla employees working. Elon's going to have to pay them out of his pocket to build these things. I guess it won't be a lot of money for him because maybe it'll cost him $1 billion for several thousand of these things. I just think that it's awesome that he's doing this. But when the company is in trouble, man, you'd love to have them add some revenue in that space to it, which we really don't see happening. So sort of adds to okay, you got people working, you're going to pay them out of your pocket so the company doesn't have to worry about it, and it's good advertising. But it would be nice if they were adding revenue that was paid for by the government to help people save people's lives. I think would have been nice, but it's not happening. I just got a note from Carlo regarding what happened with the quick dip to 272 and then it bounced back up. Great question, Carlo. I actually just got an email from one of our top level Patreon subscribers, and he indicated to me that there have been other times this has occurred and sent me screenshots of it. So for all of you that are on the Patreon side, expect a forwarded email, or I'll clip those screenshots and send those to you either tonight or first thing in the morning, so you can see when others of these occurred, so you can look at were there implications to this further in the week, or that followed that up. That is useful in understanding what might occur. So I have to admit, I haven't seen that happen before, particularly with Tesla, but to assume that things that happen mean nothing, I think is unwise. I think it's always good to do your homework to better understand what's happening. And we're definitely doing that with the help of some of our other Patreon supporters. So that's my answer to it. And the answer is, as I sent a note out to you guys, so what we've been doing with our Patreon supporters is we'll send out notes as well on things that are happening trading-wise for Tesla that might be interesting or important to note. And one of our Patreon supporters talked about the fact that Tesla's stock had dropped to 272 briefly in after hours on Friday, and sent me the screenshot, and I saw it and sent that out to the Patreon folks immediately for those guys to chew on it. And so it's sort of one of the benefits of being a Patreon member is you kind of get information earlier than other folks might get, and you have time to analyze it ahead of your trading and other things, which is one of the benefits of being a Patreon supporter. So we thank you for your support in that space. Any rate, we're at our 23-minute mark. We have a trade blast coming up tomorrow morning, possibly tonight. I think that, as usual for this week, we'll have our trade blast every morning. I kind of figured it out. Android seems to work fine in terms of our trade blast for Patreon supporters, and the iPhone doesn't. So I might toggle between them. We get better video and so forth from the iPhone, but not as good video, but no problems interfacing with YouTube when we do Android. So I think we kind of got that figured out, and we really want to master it because we appreciate your effort to support us, and we want to be as professional as possible on our side, including every aspect of mic, sound, lights, etc. We also would greatly appreciate any constructive criticism of what we say and do, because we want to improve and we want to perform better in terms of delivering value to you as a viewer, because we value your time. Any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. I agree with you. This is a really bad show because I'm only supposed to present good or nice things about Tesla, but unfortunately, that's kind of the zone in right now, and we're happy to embrace other visions on what's happening, etc. I saw a number of comments I wasn't able to respond to because sometimes messing up the show to respond to your comment results in a number of people that were on the live show jamming me for cutting the show short to do other things. Any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Remember, boosting vitamin C is probably a good idea health-wise. I also wanted to encourage you 25 leg lifts a day. Also wanted to encourage you try to get some good sleep, same number of hours each day, even if you're in a sequester zone, healthier for you and everyone else. Wanted to, thank you for your time and presence. We appreciate every minute that you spend with us, and we try to deliver in that way and work on always improving to deliver on that promise. Please take time to like and subscribe. Patreon support, always appreciated. Also wanted to thank those of you who helped with the pay for the pizza and not flaming me for having bad video. We're really not allowed to, video inside the place and people can get fired. So you guys not bugging me about that, I really appreciate it. And they appreciated the pizza and support for the hard work that they're doing there. So thank those of you who donated to help us pay for that. Any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Have a great day. Bye for now. And thank you for the comment about the pin on Friday and the fact that the logic we presented actually worked. Much appreciated. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, hey do, Swedish, Straswicher, hello in Russian, Ni hao ma, hello Chinese, and Hoda Hafez, Farsi, have a good day. Or it means God be with you. Namaste, India. And wanted to say, Nuff respect, walk good man in Jamaica is what we would say. Thanks once again for joining us and have a great day. Bye for now.